Hey Line, hi folks, it's Lev. Welcome back to another video. For those of you who are new, I use he and pronouns. This video idea I've had in my mind for a while now, but I've never actually made a video about it, and it's like me googling common questions asked about trans experiences and trans people and just answering it. The first there's like a bunch of questions here, but I'm not going to answer every single one of them. And I also want to say that I'm going to be answering these questions based on my personal experiences and that I don't necessarily speak for all trans and gender diverse people. I'm speaking for myself and my experiences. So I've left all the timestamps for the different questions I'm gonna answer in the description box, so feel free to watch the whole video if you wish, but if you like to pick and choose, that's 100% okay as well. This is just me putting my experiences out there. You're well like free to pick and choose what you like to watch and what you don't like to watch. No dramas on my end. First question: why do transgender people use they pronouns? For me, before I came out as a trans guy and I was figuring out my gender identity and trying to understand who I am actually, I wanted to use they them pronouns because I didn't feel comfortable with she her pronouns, and I was also afraid of using he him pronouns. And then I'm just like, I don't feel like I'm in the binary. Like I don't feel like I'm a guy, but I don't think I'm a woman either. So I just use they them as like a gender neutral one. Well, I wanted to. I don't think I did. I wanted to use they them so that I wouldn't feel like uncomfortable and like I wouldn't be uncomfortable and scared of using he him and then feel dysphoric with she her. Yep. And at the time of me wanting to use they them pronouns, it would have been affirming for me. I don't know if it's gender affirming for me because I didn't come out as non-binary or gender fluid or whatnot then. I was still figuring out who I am, and then that would have been affirming for me, and just also ease the pressure of like trying to fit into one of the binary and then use like he him or she her pronouns. Second question: why do transgender people take hormones? So a little bit of background context for those of you who have never seen me before. I'm a trans guy and I'm currently on testosterone, and I hit one year and 1 month on testosterone 2 days ago. And I am taking testosterone because I'm assigned female at birth, but I am a man, and that's why I'm trans, because my assigned sex and gender at birth. And I say sex and gender because in the world we live in, people assigned female at birth are assumed to be women, and people assigned male at birth are assumed to be men. My assigned sex and gender at birth are incongruent with who I am in terms of my gender identity. So I'm assigned female at birth, but I'm actually a man, and these two things do not align with each other. And I've been feeling very dysphoric, especially for before testosterone. Especially, I've been feeling very dysphoric in my body about my voice. I didn't like who I was at the time before I went on testosterone because it's not me. Like I know deep down I'm a guy, but then the body I'm living in is not me. It's incongruent with who I am, and it's just like this constant internal conflict, internal discomfort of having to live in a body that is not me, and it doesn't feel like me, and it's not like very homey to me. Like it's not my home. It's like I'm a boy stuck in a body assigned to my birth. And I went on testosterone for many reasons. Firstly, because of the dysphoria, so going testosterone significantly reduced my gender dysphoria. I won't say completely eliminate it, but significantly reduced it because of the masculine changes and especially the deepening of the voice. Before I went on testosterone, but after I came out as trans, but before I went on testosterone, I was misgendered a lot. Like I physically, like based on my physical appearance, because I had a short haircut and everything, people assumed I was a guy. Once I opened my mouth to start talking, people realized my voice was high and that it's not the voice of someone who is typically assigned female at birth, because people assigned female at birth typically have a higher voice than people assigned male at birth. And then people were like, oh, not a guy, a girl. And then people in turn misgendered me, which then fueled my dysphoria. And another big reason is because I kept fighting with myself inside. Like, my subconscious knew I'm trans and that I needed to go on hormones. But then consciously I was questioning whether I should go on hormones or not, because I was scared of like, oh, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I regret this? What if I like come to understand my identity as not being trans and I'm actually a cis woman? Yada yada yada. And that held me back for so long. But then in that process, my mental health and my physical health deteriorated significantly. The longer I didn't go on hormones when I knew that it's what I needed, the worse my health got, and it just progressively declined, deteriorated, and then literally nothing got better. No amount of therapy I went through, no amount of like thought, positive thinking and like distracting myself with like different coping mechanisms, nothing like fixed things until I went on testosterone. So dysphoria, health, stop fighting with myself, because helped me feel more comfortable in my own skin. A lot of reasons. Next question, and I forgot to say I'll leave like timestamps for all the different questions in the description box. Next question: why do transgender people change their names? So more about me. Lev is not my birth name. It's not my birth name. I started going by Lev socially in August of 2020, like 3 days before my birthday. And then I got my name legally changed to Lev in March of 2021. It's almost been a year since I got my name legally changed. Wow. Anyway, I changed, to be honest, I still don't know why my subconscious pushed me to change my name. So it wasn't like a conscious thing that I'm like, oh, I should change my name for the sake of changing my name. It's like my subconscious hit me in August, and it's just like, I just felt this super uncomfortable feeling throughout my whole body. It's just like my subconscious was screaming at me, Lev, you gotta change your name. You can't keep going by your birth name. You gotta change your name now. And then I didn't understand why. Like, I'm like, my birth name's fine and stuff like that. But then I knew from my track history that if I kept fighting with my subconscious, like my conscious, saying, it's fine, you don't need to change your name, and then my subconscious saying, change your name now, I knew that if the longer I kept fighting with myself, the worse everything would get. And my subconscious is like literally never wrong. Like, it's always right with like my trans identity and everything. And I didn't want to keep lying to myself, so I'm like, okay, I'll change my name. And then I got Lev from a video game, so The Last of Us Part 2, if anyone has played that game, I got Lev from there. As a character in there named Lev. And then I started going by Lev socially because I didn't want to change my name legally immediately, just in case, I might not like Lev. So it's sort of like a trial period. I trialed it for 6-7 months, and then in March of 2021, I still like going by Lev. So that's when I got my name changed legally. And like, to this day, I don't regret changing my name to Lev. Even though I still don't understand the deep down reason why my subconscious pushed me to change my name, I don't regret it at all. But just like a possible theory my subconscious might have is, my birth name is a typically feminine name in Vietnamese, so I'm Vietnamese as well. So my birth name and my middle name. So I dropped my first name and I dropped my middle name, and then now it's just Lev Lu. I don't have a middle name anymore. My Viet birth name is very typical of like being a feminine name for girls, and maybe that's why my subconscious was like, change your name. Lev is a more masculine name, and maybe because I wanted to, or subconsciously I wanted to sort of have a new fresh start with my newfound identity of being trans, and then just leaving all of the pre-transition Lev stuff behind with my birth name. Maybe that's another reason. So I swapped the Y out to what? So what do transgender people? It's funny because when I searched what do transgender people, nothing comes up. But then if I just leave it as what do transgender, it comes up with results, which I found very interesting. So this is an interesting question. What do transgender people look like? Well, transgender people look like themselves. Like, the thing with gender identity and gender expression is that they are not the same thing. And regardless of whether someone is cisgender or transgender, their gender expression might vary. Like, someone could be a man and present very feminine, or someone could be a woman and dress and present very masculine. But that doesn't mean that gender expression does not define gender identity. So regardless of, say, if I'm a man and I present super feminine, that doesn't make me less of a man, because gender expression does not define gender identity. And I hate like the stereotypical ideas of what men and women should look like, because it also puts a lot of pressure on, I'd say, everyone to like fit the norm. Like, seeing men with long hair, well, not in Australia, not that I see often. Men typically don't have long hair. Like, that's not a common thing that I see where I live. Like, I don't have a proper answer to this question, because everyone can just dress and present the way they feel most comfortable and the way that they feel most them. And like, again, men do not have to dress necessarily have to be masculine, and women do not necessarily have to be feminine, and non-binary people and gender fluid people and stuff don't necessarily have to present androgynous. Next question, which I find very funny and very interesting. What do transgender people do? So some people may be confused and think trans and gender diverse people are like a foreign species outside of the human race. But regardless of whether we're cisgender or transgender, regardless of our gender identity, we are all human. We all have the same basic needs, like food, water, shelter, sense of connection, being loved, feeling heard, having safe spaces to contribute to. We work, we have hobbies, we do the same things that cisgender people do. We're not a foreign alien species whatsoever. And what specifically trans and gender diverse people do are unique to them. Like, same with cisgender people, we're all different, we're all unique in our own ways. And even our lived experiences may vary, just like not all trans experiences are the same. And even if, say, me, a trans man, is talking about my experiences, and then another trans man shares their experiences, it's not necessarily the same, even though we may share the same gender identity. So what do I do? Well, I make YouTube videos, I like playing video games, I like watching horror movies, I like horror things, I like escape rooms, I like editing, I like singing, I like making films. I like doing a lot of things. So this next question I found is a very important and a very good question, and it's, what do transgender pronouns mean? So pronouns are words we use to refer to a person or an object or a thing in discussion without using like our names or describing the thing directly. For example, I use he him pronouns, so someone in discussion may use he him instead of using Lev. Or if we're talking about like a dog, for example, actually, scrap the dog example. I was gonna say the dog as an it, but then I don't think that's very nice. So dogs also, I think, use he she pronouns, or humans refer to dogs by she he. Another example is like, instead of saying, oh, that table over there, we could say it. that's another example of pronouns. So pronouns are not just gender pronouns like he, him, she, her, or gender neutral pronouns like they, them, for example. There are a lot more pronouns other than he, him, she, her, they, them. This is not an exhaustive list, but other pronouns include like you, me, we, it. A lot of pronouns are a lot of words, and specifically referring to gender pronouns in this case, it's essentially just words we use instead of saying someone's name in conversation, in writing, in just communications, regardless of the medium it is, like written, verbal, yeah. And slightly off topic, but it's important to ask for what pronouns someone's used instead of assuming, because something called misgendering happens, which is when someone unintentionally or intentionally uses pronouns for someone that are not affirming for them. For example, if someone referred to me by she, her pronouns, that would be misgendering because I use he in pronouns, and using she, her pronouns for me would be firstly very dysphoric, and secondly disrespectful. Like, I don't like how the world we live in assumes that, okay, men use he, him pronouns, all men use he, him pronouns, all women use she, her pronouns, and all non-binary people use they, them pronouns. No, that's why it's important to ask instead of assume. And it's not rude to ask. I'm telling you, it's not rude to ask someone what pronouns do you use. I wouldn't say preferred pronouns because that implies that using the specific pronouns the person uses is an option. I would ask what pronouns do you use. I would scrap preferred. I would not recommend saying preferred. Just ask what pronouns do you use. It's not disrespectful. It's just like we ask for someone's name if we don't know someone's name. Like, if we don't know someone's name, we don't assume XYZ name. We ask, what's your name? It's the same with pronouns. It's just asking what pronouns do you use, or what are your pronouns. And again, it is not disrespectful to ask someone, regardless of whether they're cis or trans, what pronouns they use. And if we ask someone and they don't take it well, it's not a reflection of you or me, or it's not a reflection of the person asking. It's a reflection of the person on the receiving end. I swapped Google's phrases again, so it's like, when do transgender XYZ? And two more questions before I finish the video, and two very good questions I like. So the first one is, when do transgender people know? That's what essentially the question is. When do transgender people know? I can't speak for everyone, but for me, I started realizing I might not be cis when I'm 24 at the moment. I turned 25 in August. Wait, I lost my train of thought. I started realizing in my early uni years. So I graduated high school in 2015, went to uni in 2016. In 2016, I started figuring out I'm not actually straight, and then I went on a journey of trying to understand my sexual orientation first, and then I think in 2017 or 2018, that's when the trans stuff started popping up, being like, what if I'm not cis? Yeah, and I didn't start learning more about LGBT identities and experiences until I was literally a few years ago in my early 20s. Like, I'm 24, early 20s as in like 20, 21, 22 sort of age. When I was younger, I've heard of the word gay before, and that's literally the extent of LGBTIQ plus anything that I knew of. Did not hear of the word trans, did not know trans people existed, did not know trans experiences were a thing, never had any exposure to this sort of information. But I did know when I was younger, like my child and adolescent years, I didn't know what it was called, but I hated my chest. Like, I felt very dysphoric about my chest, even though I didn't call it dysphoria at the time. I'm just like, I feel this disconnect with my chest, and like there's something weird going on with like how I feel about my body, and I didn't know what it was until I started learning about trans experience. We're like, that's how I've been feeling my whole life, but I didn't know how to explain it. So for me, I knew when I was in my early 20s, but some people know at an early age, or some people might realize things later in their life, and that's okay. Like, it really depends on the person and the person's unique journey, and like maybe it depends on the environment they grew up in, the culture, whether they have exposure to resources and information about different experiences. It really depends. But for me, definitely when I was in my early 20s. Last question I'm going to answer in this video is sort of a follow-on from the previous question, and this question is, when do transgender people transition? So I need to clarify my understanding. There is two different types of transition. So there's social transitioning, and then there's medical transitioning. So social transitioning for me was getting a short haircut, starting to use he and pronouns instead of she her pronouns, um, starting to like live my life as a man instead of living as a woman. And this included using men's restrooms, for example. What else? I've always dressed masculine, so that hasn't really changed. But social aspects, as in also changing my name, that's another part of social transition. So all of the stuff that's not medically related, and then medical transitioning for me was going on hormones, and hopefully this year getting top surgery. But medical transition can also look like, for younger trans folk, going on puberty blockers. That's also, I say, medical transition as well. So for me, I came out as a trans guy to myself and the people, some people in my life, in January of 2020. I got a short haircut in February 2020, and that's when that haircut marked the beginning of my social transition. Because I've had long hair my whole life, and I got a short haircut. It wasn't as short as this. I didn't get a fake cut or anything, but it was the shortest haircut I've ever received in my entire life. And it was just so gender euphoric. Even though looking back now, if I had that hair now, it would be way too long and I'll just be dysphoric. But at the time, very euphoric. And then I started living as a guy. Um, and part of my social transitioning was people seeing me as a guy and like interacting with me as a guy, like people calling me dude, bro, using he him pronouns, that sort of thing. And me starting to use men's restrooms, and then changing my name and starting to go by Lev, and changing my name not legally, socially, but in by Lev, gone by Lev in August of 2020, and then changing my name legally in March of last year, and then medically transitioning. I started testosterone on January 15th, 2021. That was my first injection. I, how many injections have I had so far? Let me double check. I have had 5 testosterone injections so far. Actually, there's like, I can make a whole different video about different types of hormones. So there's like gel, there's like patch, there's injections. I chose to do injections because it's easier than like having to rub cream or gel on myself every day. So it absorbs through the skin. So I just take 2-3 monthly injections. So I've had 5 injections so far, and have begun the process of getting top surgery. As for when I started transitioning, socially I started like that when after I came out to myself, and I felt just so dysphoric, and I'm just like, I can't keep living my life like this anymore. Like, I can't keep lying to myself and pretending I'm a cisgender woman, or when pretending I'm a woman when I'm not actually a woman and I'm actually a man. That's when I hit rock bottom. I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. And then I'm like, something has to change. And that's when that pushed me to start social transitioning. And then as for medical transition, sort of the same thing happened throughout the year of 2020. I was contemplating for many months, over 6 months, whether I should go on testosterone or not, and when I should start testosterone. Because I'm like, maybe I'll start in a few years' time. But then a part of me was like, I should start right now. I'm just so dysphoric. Like, my subconscious has been screaming at me for God knows how long to get on testosterone. And I was like back and forth with my subconscious and conscious for so long. And then it was literally like, um, I started hitting rock bottom again at the end of 2020. Like, my mental health just, like, I was just miserable and I was just not happy at all. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, nothing I did fixed it. Like, yes, short-term temporary coping distractions and doing stuff I like playing video games and boxing, it did distract me. But baseline level, when the high and the fulfillment of whatever activity I did has sort of died down, I would just be in my miserable state once again. And I had a lot of dark thoughts about ending my life because I was just so miserable and I felt so stuck. And that was when I'm like, it truly hit me, that concrete decision being like, I'm I'm going on testosterone. I'm not waiting anymore. I'm going on testosterone. And then it was a process with my GP doing the informed consent model. Actually, for a few months, I talked to my GP for a few months about it. And then I'm just like, I can't fucking do this anymore. And then I went on testosterone in January of last year. Again, I can't speak for all trans and gender diverse people because it so varies between the person and their circumstances and their current experiences. Because I understand that, for some people, it might not be safe to come out, it might not be safe to transition, whether it be medically and or socially. It's very hard to say for everyone because everyone's circumstances are different. But for me, it was more the internal self-doubt and fear holding me back, more so than being in physical danger if I did come out and start transitioning. I honestly don't know how long this video has gone on for. I'm pretty sure it's over 25 minutes, or maybe even over 30 minutes, but that's okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope, again, I always say, like, if it helps like at least one person out there, then I'm a happy guy. Thanks for watching, folks. And if you have like future video idea recommendations or stuff you'd like me to talk about, feel free to leave in the comments or like email me. Until then, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.